Centerville City is no stranger to natural disasters. Two of the most notable calamities in recent years were the floods of 1983 and the hurricane-force winds that wreaked havoc and destruction on our small town in 2011. Neighbor helped neighbor, cut trees, haul debris, and re-roof homes. In the great tradition of our forefathers, this community turned out in droves, working side by side to overcome these challenges together. We are facing a new, insidious emergency, one that menaces our neighbors, loved ones, and friends, affecting lives and families every single day. Too many among us are struggling with distressing life challenges, including loneliness, depression, addictions, and suicide.
I struggled with bullying and found out I had ADHD, so I really struggled in school. By the third grade, I had my first suicidal thought. And back in the 80s, I didn't even know that you could actually kill yourself. And I just knew that I didn't like the way I felt. I was shuffled in and out of doctors' offices, and when I would talk to my friends, they didn't have the same story. They weren't going to doctors every other day.
Started at BYU, and I don't know if that seems ironic to some people or not. As an athlete at BYU, it was the first time I was exposed to narcotic painkillers, and knew immediately that I liked them. And hadn't had a narcotic painkiller in all of my athletic career up to my days at BYU.
Our plans were to go out and to, talk to some people, help them, but I just couldn't do it that day. In fact, I turned to my companion and I said that I just needed to rest. I just needed to rest. And I ended up doing so for 2 hours, but it wasn't just I need to take a nap. I just felt nothing inside. And I didn't rest at all. I just laid on the floor. And there was just no positivity inside me at all. I wasn't necessarily having self-destructive feelings. I just wasn't really feeling.
I started to feel thoughts of hurting myself. And that was something that I didn't anticipate, but was my reality. And it was a challenging time. It definitely was.
My job was an IED hunter. I would go out ahead of the Marines I was serving with in Fallujah. I was in the Army, but served with the Marines. And I would locate the bombs on the roads. In 2007, in March 15th, I was hit for my 8th time. Either you find the bombs or you get hit by them. My 8th hit is what got me medevaced out of Iraq, and I was in the hospital for 3 months down in Texas, and another 3 years recovering here at home.
When I got into junior high, the bullying turned into me being a bully and wanting to hurt the others like they had hurt me, which created even more problems. And then when I got to high school, I found drugs and alcohol, and that took the pain away.
And for a freshman at BYU, battling all kinds of identity crisis and insecurities that are probably pretty common for freshmen in college, it became a solution and an outlet and an escape for me. Aside from being able to numb my physical pain, it became a way for me to deal with my emotional pain. And at that point, I was using so heavily and addicted that I would do anything to get drugs, and did anything to get drugs, knowing that I was going to lose my family or lose a job or any of the consequences that come with the illegal behaviors that came with the drug-seeking behavior. None of those things mattered. All that mattered was that I needed to get my drugs.
Brain just basically shut down. I had neck and back injuries, really feeling like I was a burden on the family. I was causing major issues. The family would be better off if I wasn't around. If I would just die by suicide, everyone would be happier in my life and they could move on and enjoy.
I went from every extreme of, my family and these friends are the worst people ever, to, man, I am so in debt for their love and their gratitude. I can't believe I'm hurting them.
I didn't really feel much hope for the future. I just wasn't really enjoying myself. And it wasn't necessarily anything specifically to do with serving a mission for the church. It was just kind of life in general.
And after 8 years of sobriety, I relapsed, and that relapse turned into a downward spiral that by 2002, I was heavily addicted to OxyContin and using throughout the day, all day, every day, and eventually lost my job at Channel 5 and then found myself at Pioneer Park buying heroin.
And eventually it caught up with me, and I ended up above the Bountiful LDS Temple, and I had come to the conclusion that I was going to take my life.
Now look back and say, man, depression is a liar. Depression makes your perspective skewed, and it doesn't allow you to see life the way it truly is. Everybody will experience challenges and difficulties, but depression makes it worse. Depression makes it seem like you will never be happy again, like you will never have joy, like you can never be successful, like because you've struggled emotionally or mentally, that you can never be trusted again. And I'll never forget the night when I felt almost a panicking, overpowering sensation to hurt myself. And I gratefully had the thought, I know this isn't right or good for me. And I know that this individual who happened in my story to be a family member cares about me and will help me through this, because I don't think I'm thinking straight right now.
I had heard of other missionaries that are struggling. They met with a counselor at LDS Family Services, and I thought, you know, what have I got to lose? Why don't I just go?
One of my really close soldiers that died by suicide, when I was at his funeral and seeing his wife that was pregnant at the time, his child, and how much pain it caused the family to have him die by suicide, was my turning point in life to say, whoa, you know, this is the road I'm going down. The tunnel's getting so dark. How do I start getting the light again in my life?
And I ended up going to rehab, and so I've dealt with depression, anxieties, ADHD. Pretty much I was diagnosed bipolar, and now I've been clean off of all substance, even the mood-altering substances as well, with help from therapists and psychologists and life skills. I needed that extra help. I needed that safe place to understand who I was and what I was really going through. Everybody talks about the light at the end of the tunnel. There was no light at the end of the tunnel for me, and it took those people who were educated and understood the process to help walk me out of it. I've been working on it ever since, and today I'm coming up on 9 years clean and sober.
Gratefully, I was approached by family members and friends and said, I think you're struggling with something, and I think we can help you. At first, I was extremely defensive.
I was fortunate at that time in 2002 that there was an intervention, and I was able to get back to treatment and return to Hawaii, where I'm originally from, to go through a very intensive treatment program. Was able to get back on track, and you know, at that point had lost my family, and spent some time, significant amount of time, focusing on getting back to recovery, back to connection, and was blessed to be able to do that. And I've been on that path ever since, and not without its ups and downs and its relapses and mistakes. But I think that the fortunate thing for me in this last, let's say, 15 years has been the knowledge that I deal with a disease that is ongoing, that the disease of addiction, like any other disease, is chronic, it's progressive, it's fatal, and it requires treatment on a regular basis. And if I don't treat my disease will return.
Meeting with a counselor definitely helped, because that was able to help me identify some of the more specific struggles that I was having. And it was also very helpful to openly acknowledge, not to everyone of course, but at least to like my missionary companion, and to my mission president, the man who kind of oversees all of the missionaries. Just that I was struggling with those things, because I think too often when we face mental illnesses, we kind of try to keep it to ourselves. We might almost feel embarrassed, like, oh, I'm facing this, what are people gonna think? But there really shouldn't be any more shame in acknowledging a mental challenge than a physical challenge, like, oh, I broke my arm. That's not something to be ashamed of. And in a similar way, mental illnesses,
I had a friend and a family member who had struggled with depression as well, and his counsel was willingly submit to the help that's being offered.
Now for me, mentorship, having mentors, having people that I can run my ideas by on good and bad days, and they can correct them, and being able to be willing to hear what they have to say and then actually putting what I want to do into action. I practice that on a daily basis, whether it's meditation. Athletics and fitness are a huge one for me to help my mind and get the stress out. We sit at work, we get yelled at by our bosses, whatever it is, you've got to let that out somehow in a healthy manner, and not take it home to your family and your kids and whatever it is. So I think the practice of the life skills and being fit and being mindful, and for me it's spirituality, are a huge part of my life.
So for me, it's getting the veterans, the military personnel back together again. And I started a program, Continue Mission, to do that. Continue Mission in Life and Healing. In the military, we call it Charlie Mike, CM. And for us, it's getting veterans back out of the house, back together again, out doing fun, enjoyable events with their family members as well. Because the family is so important for my healing process that for me in the program, we needed to do something to get the veterans motivated to get out again and get their lives back.
The other thing that really helped was trying to focus on helping other people. And it seems paradoxical, but it really made a difference for me. When I tried to look beyond my own struggles, which were real, which were debilitating at times, I found the strength to take the next step. And it's ongoing. It's ongoing.
The beauty of the program of recovery is that the time does come, or can come, where you will be relieved of this obsession to use. You know, I remember being in treatment and listening to these guys tell their stories and talk about how, oh, I don't think about using today, and my life is great. And I remember sitting there thinking, these guys are lying. You know, I could not relate to that, because for me, it was like, I always was thinking about using. And I thought maybe I'll get clean and I won't be using, but I'll be thinking about using. And a miracle happens in recovery. And there's no other way to explain it other than divine intervention, where, a person can be changed. People, the way I look at it, we don't change, but we can be changed by a power greater than ourselves. And this conversion process where I become a new man, I'm reborn without the compulsion or the obsession to use drugs and alcohol. That just doesn't make sense anymore. And then hanging on until that miracle happened for me. And it did. And I see it happen with clients that I work with now. And I'm there to hold their hand, so to speak, and encourage them, like, hang on. Hang on, because the miracle is coming. But it's not going to be without pain or without challenges. And growth happens in those circumstances. So embrace that. It's okay. We're here for you, and hang on. We'll get through this. And I promise you, what's on the other side is better than anything you could imagine. And it has been for me.
Our society has a lot of hidden wounds. You can look totally perfect on social media, but yet in life, that individual can really be suffering, and nobody is picking up on it. And so I think it's very important that we start getting out together more, being more social as a city, and doing things together to pay attention and understand each other.
this happens regardless of the righteousness of a family.
Connectiveness in recovery is everything. I think people worry about either dirtying their family name or that they feel like they're alone. They don't understand that half of the neighborhood have a depressed kid or have somebody dealing with it. And the more we can peel back the layers and share with each other again, you know, when we grew up, the neighborhood raised the kid. We don't do that anymore. Everybody's so afraid, so we don't know. And then we wait and let everybody know when it's almost too late. Either our kid or our daughter has, or our mom or our dad has killed themselves, or they're in rehab before anybody knew anything. And we don't feel like we can talk to get out of that because we're going to be told not to do it or don't do this. And we need to have open communication so we take that stigma away from everybody being willing to go and talk to the right people.
And similarly, if we were to, have a family in our community that their child was suffering from diabetes or from cancer, there would be compassion, there would be outreach, there would be, what can we do to help? How can we support you? And the parents more than likely would not be embarrassed of their child that has this disease.
It's just to talk about this. It's okay. It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to have a bad month. It's okay to feel even thoughts of self-harm as long as we reach out. Because I don't know if you are going to be the person that connects with my son, if you're going to be the person who helps my daughter. And I don't know if they're going to experience this, but I don't think I'll have all the answers for my own family.
When we're connected to others, I think it's easy for us to recognize that they care about us, because there are a lot of people that do care about us, whether that's family, friends, even strangers can care about us.
If we can catch you before you're at that point and you start getting the professional help, you start finding like-minded individuals suffering through the same things you are, so you know you're not alone.
And there are so many resources. So I think it's so important. Some people want art. Some people can get through with music. Some people like fitness. Some people, there's so many outlets to get help through, and we're ready and waiting.
And if we as a community can start to come together and support one another where we are and who we are, regardless of where we are.
So, hang on. And if you're struggling with this, hold on, because I'm gonna need you. And my kids might need you. You might have the connection that helps my family. So please hold on, because I need you.
My life is awesome today. And, people often will ask me like, hey, how are you doing? And my response pretty often is, man, I'm doing freaking fantastic. And that's real. That doesn't mean that I don't have situations, issues, the same things that I probably had in my disease or other people have in their lives, but I have a sense of hope. I have a sense of peace that everything's going to be okay.
And today I own and operate a gym that works with addiction and mental illness on a daily basis. I'm a youth mentor, and I work in the Davis School District working with troubled teens, and I coach a few different teams at Mill Creek, at Woods Cross, and at Farmington. And
you don't have to forget about the horrible things you've been through, because they're a part of your life. But I had to draw a line and say, okay, that was then. This is the new me. How am I going to heal and move forward in life to make my life work for me and not let depression and post-traumatic stress rule my life, ruin my family life.
Being connected really, really helped me to know that there were people that knew what I was going through, that were willing to help. And even when I didn't directly turn to them, it was still very helpful to just have in my mind, there are people that care about me, there are people that know me, there are people that are willing to help if I need it.
The policemen now are so aware of what's going on, where we see them as, we don't want to get in trouble, but they're so far past that they are actually there to help, and they understand mental illness now. They are doing everything in their powers as well. And that's one of the reasons I sat with Chief Childs, and he showed us a pie chart of their calls, and 70% of that was for suicide calls from the age of 10 to 34. That's a problem. So we went and switched. We were going to do addiction and mental illness, and we added suicide on because that's a big part of my story. And it's amazing to be able to work hand in hand with the fire department and the police department, especially here in Centerville. They make such a huge difference, and they do understand. They're not there to arrest, they're there to help.
There will be things in your life, in our lives, and maybe it's addiction, maybe it's something else. But I'm a firm believer that, you know, this weakness that we have is purposeful, right? That we have been given weakness for a reason, and the reason is that we would be humble. And so I share with my children that as, you know, intelligent as you think you may be, strong as you think you may be, there will be something in our lives that will challenge us beyond what we are capable of. And for me, it has been this. I say that addiction, you know, has been a blessing for me because it's the one thing that drove me to my knees, which is exactly where I needed to be.
Is life perfect? No, it's not. I have days when I feel, man, I'm depressed. Man, I must be ornery to live with. Man, how could I ever make a good impact in somebody else's life? But gratefully, I've learned that I can make a benefit. And being open about this can be helpful for others dealing with the exact same struggles. And we can normalize this, that I'm a physician. I came from a good home. This was my reality. And with good treatment, with good connections, things can go on. And I'm better than I think I've ever been.
Hi, I'm Clark Wilkinson, Centerville City Mayor. My wife Janie and I are greatly concerned for the citizens of our community.
We know that every family faces distressing life challenges. And you know, challenges are nothing to be ashamed of. They're just simply part of life. We need to come together just as we have in times past in this community and help each other through the tough times.
We're concerned about the mental, physical, and emotional well-being of all our citizens. Janie and I have gathered an impressive task force to create the Mayor's Initiative on Wellness, Centerville Cares, a new and different approach to promote wellness in our community.
Now, information about Centerville Cares can be found on the Centerville City website, centervilleut.net. It's all lowercase. And you know, there you'll find lots of resources, links to the videos and more of the testimonials that you saw earlier, activities, planned events from the city, and ways to get out and get to know your neighbors.
From the north to the south, we are one community, a great community of good people. This is a big task, but we want to eradicate suicide from our community.
We want to relieve depression, help our loved ones and friends through all of life's challenges.
We believe there is a way. If we help each other, if we are actively there for each other, providing support in the short and the long term, we can accomplish this because Centerville cares. Reach out for help.
Reach out and connect with your neighbor.
So hold on, reach out. There's help for you.
Reach out.
Reach out.
It's important we live together. Reach out.
Reach out. Please reach out.
Reach out to help.
Reach out.
Reach out for help.
Reach out and help.
If you're struggling, reach out. I'm not somebody who read about it, I lived it. I can help, or we can help. There's resources out there.